Welcome to Honors Geometry Lesson 8.4, Special Parallelograms, where we get even a little bit more focused on certain parallelograms and maybe some of the properties that they have. So let's go ahead and move right along. Alright, 8.4. Okay, what shape is this? It's got 4 right angles. Yes, that's right. It is a rectangle. A rectangle is a parallelogram with 4 congruent right angles. That's why it's called a rectangle. The Latin for right is rect. It just means, the name actually means right angles. So, 4 right angles. Okay, what is the next figure up there? What is this? Some of you may remember what it is. That's called a rhombus. And a rhombus is a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. So on a rhombus, it's a parallelogram with 4 congruent sides. And then the last one. Sure, that's a square. And a square is a parallelogram with 4 congruent right angles and 4 congruent sides. So since it has 4 right angles, a square is a rectangle because it's got 4 right angles. And since all 4 sides are congruent to each other, that square is also a rhombus. A square is both a rectangle and a rhombus. In fact, some books might even define a square as a parallelogram that's both a rectangle and a rhombus. Go figure. Now some really cool properties happen with these 3. But before I even talk about the special properties of these 3, I would like to bring your attention to this thing is a parallelogram. In fact, I don't even want to do it that way. I want to show you with my magic pen. This thing right here, that thing is a parallelogram. So it has the 4 properties of a parallelogram. 5 properties of a parallelogram. Opposite sides are congruent to each other. Opposite angles are congruent to each other. Consecutive angles are supplementary. The diagonals will bisect each other. And which one did I forget? Anyway, those are true of all rectangles. Same thing goes for rhombuses. All the properties that apply to parallelograms also apply to rhombuses. And same thing with squares. Square has all the properties of parallelogram because look, right here it says it's a parallelogram. Alright, let's move on to the special properties of these special parallelograms. On a rectangle, these 2 diagonals on every rectangle, those diagonals right there that I just drew, those will both be congruent to each other, and the diagonals bisect each other because it's a parallelogram, but they're congruent. So with a rectangle, all 4 of the diagonal parts are going to be congruent to each other. That's pretty cool. Now on a rhombus, when you draw the diagonals, those diagonals are going to be perpendicular. Not only that, these diagonals, each diagonal is going to bisect a pair of opposite angles. And then this diagonal is going to bisect a pair of opposite angles. That's pretty cool. Now, since a square is both a rhombus and a rectangle, a square is going to have congruent diagonals, and it's also going to have perpendicular diagonals that bisect a pair of opposite angles. So there's quite a few properties bouncing around in there that hopefully you can remember with some work that you do in class. And that's it. Those are the special parallelograms I was going to talk about and the properties of those parallelograms. This does conclude Honors Geometry Lesson 8.4, Special Parallelograms.